Today we're going to be doing a highly requested video comparing the highest rated cheaper Strops on Amazon. Now, I have to give a warning here, and this is very important. First off, I bought all of these with my own money, but also, this is not going to be a typical review. This is a very subjective review, and that's because what makes a good strop can easily be based a lot on feel or how the strop user experiences it during the stropping process. Also, it's very subjective to the strop compound that you're using, whether it's emulsion, paste, or these really crappy waxy bar type chromium oxide things. Even down to the exact abrasive particle size can play a role in how well these things work, depending on the leather. So changing the variables here can definitely change the results. The results aren't necessarily just based on the strop itself. Now another problem is that we can't mix and match, meaning once we apply a certain abrasive particle size, we can't change it. We can't change from a 6 micron diamond emulsion down to a 1 micron diamond emulsion. There will always be 6 micron particles embedded in that strop surface no matter what you do. So with us only having one strop of each brand, we can't test every strop with every abrasive type. It would get really expensive really quickly. I mean, who do you think we are here, Mr. B? $1 million. Now I typically stick to 6, 1 1/10 micron diamond emulsion or compound. That's my strop progression. So rather than test these things with the included waxy bar type things that a lot of these come with, which I wouldn't recommend this stuff by the way, throw this stuff out and I'm going to test these strops how I would typically use them, sticking with a 6 micron and a 1 micron, considering most of these are double-sided strops. The strops we're going to be testing today are the Sharp Pebble for $20.79, the Beavercraft for $19.99, the Halt Solts, or however you say that, for $17.99, the Lavoda for $16.99, the Backer for $25.99, the Sharp Ball for $22.99, and the Horl piece of leather for $35. So all of these strops are double-sided with a smooth side and a rough side, with the exception of the Sharp Pebble and the Horl due to it only being a piece of leather. But the Horl can be used double-sided, like I'll show here in a second. Initially I applied 6 micron diamond emulsion to the rough side and 1 micron to the smooth side. And this is where we have the first problem. When applying emulsion to the rough side of some of the strop surface on some of these was very hydrophobic. The emulsion just sat on the surface and some of it literally just rolled off. It actually took some effort to somewhat evenly spread the emulsion on some of these strops. The leather just didn't take the emulsion very well. Another problem when applying the 1 micron to the smooth side was some of these strops' smooth side leather was very shiny, and the emulsion didn't spread very nicely or stick very well to the leather surface. Now, with some effort, I was able to apply a layer of emulsion to these shiny strops, but when using the strop, the ultra smooth shiny leather simply feels very bad. Very bad. It does work initially, but for whatever reason, the ultra smooth leather surfaces tend to clog up with particulate very quickly, requiring you to remove all of the previous diamonds in the cleaning process, mainly due to the fact that the shiny leather surface doesn't hold the diamond very well. All in all, this is not good. If we take a look at the surface of the Sharp Pebble strop with 1 micron, we can see that a lot of the diamond is sitting down into the low spots of the leather, while the small amount of diamond on the high spots is doing all the work, and also clogging with material after just a handful of passes. Again, this is due to the ultra smooth and also ultra stiffness of the leather, not allowing the leather to conform and letting the abrasive actually come into contact with the knife edge. Now on the other hand, or side, the strops with the more suede-like rough sides have almost the opposite problem, with the diamond particles getting deeply embedded into the surface. So much so that as you're stropping, some of the leather pieces can completely cover up some of the particles, not allowing them to even touch the blade, as well as the fact that these looser leather pieces have a tendency to sweep over the apex, carrying the diamond particles with them. This can often lead to apex rounding, as the diamond particles roll over the apex while they're still embedded into the looser pieces of leather. In this picture here, we can see how the particles are deeply embedded into the suede-like surface, and how these particles can sweep over the apex, causing rounding due to the softer leather surface. So all in all, there were 4 strops that exhibited these problems. The Sharp Pebble, the Beavercraft, the Halt Solts, and the Lavoda. I think I'm saying these names right. With the exception of the Sharp Pebble, these all have very soft, suede-like surfaces for the rough side, and a very shiny smooth side, with the exception of the Lavoda that had a slightly more matte finish on the smooth side and took the compound slightly better than the rest of these. But in my opinion, all of these Strops were about equal in their overall performance. Now with the proper technique, these Strops do work. You can apply some diamond to the surface and strop your knife and get decent results. Heck, you can apply diamond compound to a wooden board and strop your knife and get decent results. But we have other factors to consider here, which I will get to in a minute. Now the last three Strops here, the Batcher, still not sure how to say that. The Sharpball and the Whorl incorporate better leather overall. While the leather was definitely different on all three of these, they all took the diamond compound and emulsion much better than the others in this review. Now eventually you'll have to clean your Strop, and there's several different ways that you can do this. One is with a towel, wipe the surface, and some stuff will come off. This works okay on certain leather, but is sometimes not aggressive enough to remove stuck-on compound or particulate. It also doesn't work well with suede type leathers that we talked about earlier. The next and my preferred method is with a sharp razor blade. On quality pieces of leather, you can use a razor to scrape the old stuff off. Now this method doesn't work on the lower quality suede-like type of leathers we talked about earlier. This is another area where they fall short. You're stuck cleaning them with a towel, and towels don't always work. So if you use a razor blade on the suede type leather, it'll shred your Strop more than it'll clean it. You can see we've got these like big pieces coming off of it. Not really good. Now the last method, which again, if used on a quality dense piece of leather, is capable of completely resurfacing the leather to basically brand new. And it involves taking a piece of quality 120 grit sandpaper and sanding the surface clean. Don't worry, this won't contaminate your Strop if you use a quality piece of sandpaper. Now this resurfacing will also take a quality piece of leather and turn it into a really great Strop surface. So if you buy this Batcher or Backer Strop, take a 120 grit piece of sandpaper and sand all of the shiny surface off of the leather. And on the rough side, sand it smooth. Now because of the density and thickness of the leather this Strop comes with, you will now have reconditioned pieces that are about perfect for holding diamond abrasives of all types. This really transforms this Strop, and in my opinion puts it at #1 best leather, but still behind the Whorl, so technically #2. So here's how I'd rate them as they come right out of the box, with 10 being a hypothetical perfect score. Tied for first place, we have the Whorl. Its leather quality is perfect for stropping, and even though you would want to glue it to a flat surface out of the box, the leather quality can't be overlooked. The only reason it didn't get a perfect score is due to the fact that it's just a piece of leather, and it's pretty expensive at around $35. This placing does change on our next chart, but more on that in a second. Next, tied for first right out of the box is the Sharpball. The Sharpball's leather is pretty good and it takes compound well. While it may not have the best leather out of the bunch, the surfaces work well for pretty much every compound, and is dense enough to clean pretty easily. Right out of the box, I think it's the best performer here, but again, this changes on our next chart. Next, we have the Batcher. This Strop's leather could have been really good with nice, dense, thick pieces, but the surface finish on the leather was lacking, especially on the smooth side where it had a slight sheen to it and didn't take compound very well. However, again, its placing changes in the next chart. Next is the Lavoda. While it did have some suede type leather on the rough side as some of the other lower rankers here, its smooth side was slightly better. It took the compound okay, but the rough side pulled its overall rating down quite a bit. Next we have the Beavercraft and the Hutzoltz, however you say that. Both of these had shiny leather on the smooth side and suede on the rough side. Overall, pretty poor quality leather, in my opinion. And last we have the Sharp Pebble. This single-sided Strop for about $21 is definitely the worst value here. Not only are you getting half the Strop for your money, but the leather isn't very good for stropping due to its super shiny surface that just didn't take compound very well.
But what if you modify them?
Now, if you're willing to do some slight work on each Strop out of the box, things change. Starting with the Whorl, if you're willing to glue it to a flat surface, even while losing one side of the Strop surface and doing that, you still end up, in my opinion, with a perfect Strop. And that's why it's a 10 for me. For about $100, buy 3 of them, glue them to a flat surface, 6 1 1/10 micron, and you'll never need another Strop for the rest of your life. It could be cleaned and serviced basically forever, and that's why it's at a number 10. Next is the batcher. If you sand the surfaces, it transforms it into a much better stropping surface. I think if sanded, the value of this strop would be hard to beat and very close to the Horl in leather quality. Next is the sharp ball. Due to the leather, sanding the surface of this strop doesn't change it much, and it's not really particularly great leather, but it works perfectly fine out of the box. However, don't let this hold you back though. We are splitting hairs here analyzing this stuff. The sharp ball works perfectly fine for just about everything right out of the box. You just can't modify it to make it a whole lot better like some of the other strops here. Now, most of the other ratings don't change much. The only real change here is the sharp pebble, where its leather could be sanded to make it better for stropping. It's still overall a pretty bad value, since you still only get one strop surface for about $21. Just step it up to the Horl if you're going to go that route. Now keep in mind that the strop compound that you use is just as important as the strop. A poor quality compound will give you poor results regardless of the strop type, and a good quality compound will give you good results even on a relatively poor quality strop. I hope this video helps. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. I'm not explaining this part of the video. If you know, you already know.